Welcome back to Over the Fence Landscape Tours. Today we're in a very special garden because it's the home garden of Pam Pierce. We've gone on a few garden tours of gardens that she's designed. She's an amazing designer here in Eugene. Her business is called The Walled Garden. But today we're in her home garden, which is always a little special because it's where the designer lives and where their creative inspiration is really played out. And so join me as we go over the fence, over this really adorable door fence. I love it. Come on. So nice to see you again.
You too.
Thanks for coming and calling us back, to see your own personal garden.
Yeah, my personal garden.
I mean, you've probably been gardening here for quite a while.
Since 2021.
Okay.
I mean, sorry.
2001.
2001.
2001.
Since
Okay.
2001.
I'm like, dang, you made these plants grow fast.
Yeah, no. 2001. Yeah.
Cool. So
Yeah.
This is the front yard?
This is the front, the tiny front. We're really close to downtown. We're just on the west end of downtown here.
Okay.
So the lots are pretty small. This garden's very small. But I love plants, so obviously I've packed a lot of plants into a small space.
Yeah, nice. And you've inspired some neighbors too, it seems like.
Yeah, I've actually done a few designs for a couple of neighbors.
Nice.
So yeah. But this is a tiny front garden. And we have the street trees, of course, that were here when we moved in, which aren't the best. They're sweet gums, and I would not recommend them as street trees because they have to get topped because of the wires every year.
Oh, and then they drop kind of some nasty stuff.
All kinds of stuff,
yeah.
Little seeds. I mean, big seeds.
Uh-huh.
I had to sort of contend with that. So,
And
kind of crazy conditions, like really deep shade in some spots, but this is southwest, so really searing sun in other spots.
Interesting.
And that's been challenging.
Have you had a lot of error that you've had to correct?
Yeah, I've definitely had. I'm still not settled here in the front garden. It's amazing.
Yeah.
After all these years, I still haven't figured out exactly what I want it to be. So.
Well, the journey of gardening, right?
Yeah.
So what is this beautiful thing?
This is Edgeworthia chrysantha. It's a relative of Daphne,
Wow.
and it will lose its leaves, and then these little things that you see will become these beautiful, like honeycomb yellow, and they kind of smell like honey, actually.
Wow.
Big kind of flowers that
Okay.
are composite flowers made up of a bunch of
Oh.
little flowers. Really, really cool because it's on the bare branches. It's really super fragrant, so people can smell it from walking down the street.
Oh, nice.
So mostly when it's blooming, I have to put a little sign on it. Otherwise, people will knock on my door and ask me what it is. Yeah, because nobody knows what it is.
And then the variegated bishop's hat, right?
Yeah, bishop's weed.
Bishop's weed, okay.
Yeah, it's I put that in originally because I'm a big proponent of groundcover, which is now been coined by, I don't know if Claudia West coined it, but green mulch. Like ever since I started gardening here, before these things were even like written about. Well, I'm sure they were written about somewhere, but before I was aware of them, I just intuitively wanted to like cover the ground. I didn't want any bare ground.
Yeah, that's how it is in nature. It's
That's what I was gonna say.
To be
Yeah.
plants.
So my inspiration when I figured out what was driving me to garden was like going to my grandmother's house and walking in the woods there, this is back in Rhode Island where I'm from,
Mhm.
and the ground would be just covered with little things, like little tiny orchids, and
Yeah.
I don't know, just
Nice.
the little plants, the little flowers, the little
Uh-huh.
plants kind
Yeah.
of got me. It's not always practical, but yeah, I'm a big proponent of ground cover, and it turns out, of course, it's really great because you don't have to water as much if the ground is
Oh
covered.
yeah. Or weed as much.
Or
right?
weed as much, exactly.
Although sometimes that can backfire, and then you're just weeding
It's true.
through things.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah.
Yes, I had in the back. There's a bit of a experiment, or has been a 20+ year experiment.
Oh,
with that,
nice! I can't wait to
with
see
ground
that.
cover. Yeah. And then I like to use a lot of just common plants. This is just variegated boxwood, and I love that plant because it's you can topiary it, as you'll see in the back. I have many that I've
nice.
topiaried. But also it can take full sun or full shade. And that's kind of what I needed here,
Right.
because at some points this was full sun. That Katsura tree, the Cercidophyllum, has grown a lot and is now shading a lot more than this area used to be shaded. I can't remember which is which, but the male or the female, whichever one, grows a lot smaller, like only tops out at 20 feet. And then the other one gets really tall, and I was sold the one that supposedly tops out at 20 feet. But this is clearly not. This is the wrong sex.
And so, does it take on like a roasted marshmallow smell?
Oh, like burnt sugar.
Yeah.
In fact, my mail carrier last year asked me, he finally just asked me, he's like, do you bake a lot? I was like, what are you talking about? And then it dawned on me, he was like, it smells like sugar. And I was like,
oh, that's hilarious.
Oh, and I figured it out. I was like, no, it's this tree. You see this tree? So in about 2 weeks, it'll do that. When they change and then they drop, it's the dried leaves that smell like that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And have your signature pan pots leading you just on a journey up to the front patio.
Yeah, not sure.
Gorgeous.
Like, again, this is my own garden, so I would never design a garden like. Well, first of all, this garden isn't even really designed, but it just kind of evolves. You know, this goes against all my design rules, really. Like little pots, I never use little pots.
Oh.
I use big pots, lesser pots and larger pots.
Yeah.
Are better, but I don't know. I can do whatever I want. Here, right? And that Pieris is the last remaining plant that was here when we moved here.
Nice.
And I want to get rid of it, but my husband's attached to it.
Oh.
It's gonna stay for now until I remove it without him noticing. Which I don't know.
It's pretty noticeable.
These rhododendrons were in the back at one point. They were here when we moved in the house, and I hated them because I hate sort of I call them the big box rhodies, sort of the typical ones you find at Jerry's or Lowe's or Home Depot. And I was gonna just throw them in the compost, and my husband was like, no, let's put them in the parking strip. I was like, okay, fine. And actually, these for some reason are resistant to lacebug. They haven't gotten lacebug. Right. And I actually don't mind the foliage. The flowers are okay. They're a pale pink. It's okay. It's not an exotic species rhododendron, but it does block the traffic. Yeah. And help create a privacy screen. Cover. Yeah. And this is very shaded because of these trees, but then of course we have blasting sun on the other side. Yeah,
it's not often that I'm pointing out rhodies saying how much I like them.
I know. Well, I mean, I love species. In the back I have a lot of species rhododendrons, which is kind of ironic since I was known for many years as a rhodie hater. But I like the species rhododendrons.
Nice.
Not such a big fan of these, but I will say it's healthy. Yeah. There's big leaves. They're there all year round. It's fine for a parking strip. Right. Yeah. I much prefer these big leaves. These big leaves are much nicer. This is Tetrapanix, the Chinese paper plant.
Gorgeous. These have survived quite a few winters here.
Oh yeah, super hardy.
Wow.
And I don't know what's going on with the Tetrapanix. So like, that's the mother plant right there, the big one. And then the second pup is over there, and it was very huge, but it was growing into this tree over here, which is a Persian ironwood, and I cut it down to the ground because I didn't want it to grow that way. And so it just sent up this huge thing of leaves.
Oh.
But every year it's been, okay, a pup here, a pup there, whatever. But for some reason this year, not just mine, but everyone I know, including folks in Portland, their tetrapanics decided to do walkabouts. So like mine showed up in my neighbor's garden. It crossed the concrete here and showed up on that side of the garden. And it's going down the side garden. But it's not just me. It's everybody I know who has tetrapanics.
Yeah.
It decided to just roam more.
It reminds me of bamboo, how...
Yes, how they'll all die at once.
Yeah.
Yeah. So are they talking to one another, like underground?
There's so much we don't understand.
There is so much we don't understand. Yeah, we're definitely in a transition moment. So it's not summer in this garden anymore, and it is fall, but it's not quite like true. Like leaves aren't really changing for the most part yet. So it's kind of a weird transition period.
It does seem like such a good winter garden, though, in terms of just how many evergreen things you have.
Yeah, so it's funny. So when I started gardening, I started out, and I've since read other gardeners say this, so I knew I wasn't the only one. When I first started this garden, I was like, it was all about flowers. Like, put flowers, flowers, flowers. And then, after a few years, I realized, oh, that's great, but the garden looks like shit in August. So then I became a shrub person. So it was like shrubs. And I'm still dealing with my little shrub obsession. But, you can only pack so many shrubs into a space, right? And my latest sort of evolution, I guess, is purely focusing on the winter. Like, what can I plant here that looks good in the winter?
Oh.
So that's consequently, I don't have that many flowers these days. I mean, of course, I have my roses. There are moments when there's quite a bit of color, but that's not my focus at all. Nice. Because the space is very small. Over the past several years, I've been really focusing on columnar evergreens, things that are evergreen that have a columnar habit. Because I've run out of room. Oh, basically, I've run out of room.
And there's so many. Like, what is this one?
It's euonymus green spire. And I have several of them dotted around the garden. Yeah, I really love it. The leaves are shiny, and it does have a columnar habit.
Yeah, I love how they've got it's like they were cut with, wrinkle scissors.
Yes. And some changes are coming. So this is, because of my shrub obsession, of course, I had to get a viburnum. So this is coming out this winter. I'm going to be removing this because... although it looked good for many years through pruning, after a while, these shrubs, they really just need their space to look good. So it's now at the point where I'm feeling like it's looking butchered. So I'm going to be removing it. Yeah. This viburnum I'm probably not going to remove yet because it's so glorious. It's Korean spice.
Ooh.
And it gets these balls of incredibly fragrant white flowers in March.
Lovely.
And that's really nice to have in March.
Yeah. And I love the arbutus.
Yeah, which also gets whacked. But now it's kind of creating this archway, so I'm like, okay.
And can you just stand under there? It's like it's perfect for the gardener.
It's perfect for the very short gardener.
Yeah, I mean you're the person that it knows the most, so it makes sense. And then these little balls will turn red soon.
Yeah, they'll go from green to orange to red.
Oh, that's gorgeous.
Yeah, that's why I love this shrub because, well, it doesn't need any summer water at all. But these will become flowers that the hummingbirds absolutely adore, and they smell like honey. And then the fruit, all on the same shrub at the same time, you have green fruit, orange fruit, and red fruit. Oh. So all stages of maturity and flowers all at the same time.
Wow.
So it's very, very
Is this compacta?
It is compacta, which isn't very compact.
No. Oh, it's in this bed of it's kind of like a wild ginger, but I don't know what.
It's canadensis. So
canadensis.
It's the native North American ginger, which is really... I planted it in the front on the other side. I sort of regret it. It's very aggressive.
Oh.
It's stuck here because it doesn't like the sun, and this is blasting south-facing sun. So it's kind of stuck under the arbutus.
That's great. And I just love it. It's like a shadow. It's just, under there so beautifully.
So this is the other, another specimen of the, which actually I pruned very recently. It was much taller. Euonymus green spire. So as you can see, I have neighbors like right on top of me, and that's how the name of my business came about, actually, the walled garden, because I was first inspired by old walled gardens, like ancient walled gardens. You know, I realized that this is essentially what we have, because we're surrounded by houses.
Yeah.
And so the fence line, you know, the fence is on the line, and it's basically created a walled garden de facto. I mean, it's not a beautiful stone wall, but
Yeah.
and the whole idea is that, you know, inside the walled garden you have your oasis, and outside is the wider world. So this white akebia is done. It's already fruited. It gets a very weird little pod inside.
So that's the chocolate vine, right?
Yes. So this is the white one. You need two to get the fruit, and this is the white akebia, and the pods are kind of more round and more white. And then this is the purple akebia. They split open like this. I guess a few of them. And they get this. The edible part is this weird pod that's inside.
So you actually eat these?
I don't, but I gave them to the last garden tour that I had. People ate them.
Wow.
They are edible. They sell them in the farmers market in Korea and Japan.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've never seen the pods.
They have a lot of seeds in them.
Those are so cool.
So this is an unopened pod. See, it turns this really pretty color purple.
Yeah.
And then when it's ready, it splits open. And the edible part's inside.
I know that the flowers on here are so precious.
Yeah, they come really early, like as early as February some years. Yeah.
Wow, I love this row of, is this hornbeams?
It is. This is a little trick that I learned from the UK gardeners. So you can hedge hornbeam. So this is kind of a rectangle cubed.
Okay.
Because I just needed to block out the house. It's just on the other side, and I mean literally just on the other side of this. It's a row of hornbeams. There's 4 of them.
That's so pretty. And the little woodland setting that it creates underneath it is gorgeous. That's great to see a garden with so many columnar things.
Yeah.
Is this a perennial plant?
Yes. So this is the one that I was trying to remember the Latin name. So this is New Zealand blueberry vine. Yeah, it's from New Zealand. I got it from Dancing Oaks many years ago. And I didn't realize it's actually way bigger than it looks. It's just woven in on itself. I didn't realize how big it was going to get, so I put it on this tiny little thing. And now, of course, it's too late. It's going to have to live there, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, that is striking. Those purple berries.
Yeah, there's some more berries over there that are really cool that we can look at a little later.
Okay. And then, this lovely bed of asters. Just
asters so great. So great for the late garden here. This back bed here is the sunniest probably part of the garden. It has a lot of flowers early.
Yeah, and texture and structure. And then you've created some super high structures for vines to call.
Yeah, this is it's a bit of a curse because these vines some of them are hard to control. It's like if you want quick coverage, then you have to deal with really aggressive vines. So this is Clematis montana, and it's pretty darn aggressive.
Is it evergreen as well?
No, it's I would call it semi-evergreen. So it does lose its leaves for a couple months of the year. But yeah, you hardly ever see these here. This is Mountain Ash Pink Pagoda.
Gorgeous.
And it gets these berries that turn pink. And they persist for the whole winter with no leaves, these pink berries. And the birds don't eat them because they don't see pink. They only see red they don't see them.
And this is a nice moss and blue star creeper.
This is a combination of moss, blue star creeper, and feeding this winter because we had such a intense, like, late cold, and it hasn't fully recovered. But I'm sure next year. Normally, it's completely solid green, and then in the spring, of course, covered in flowers.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Oh,
And then in the late winter, it's covered in crocus because I've inserted a bunch of species crocus, the little ones. They're all through here, so it's like very soft, like pastel colors. And then I have a bunch of species rhododendrons here, which I love. Like this, units. Would you guess that was a rhododendron?
No, that does not look like a rhododendron.
I know, I love that thing.
Does it have little flowers?
It flowers very early in March, and there's so many flowers on it that you can't see the foliage.
Oh my
Pale
gosh.
pink in like very, very early March. Yeah. And this is a brand new one. This is my latest acquisition. Look at the blue foliage. Yeah, Oreo trophies. I love that thing. I just can't believe how blue it is.
Yeah.
And it takes full sun. And then this is really cool. This is a pseudo camellia, Japanese stuardia.
Oh.
And all of these little things that you see, they were white camellia-like flowers.
Wow.
And it flowers for a really long time. That's why some of the pods are dried and some of them are still green, because it flowers for almost 2 months.
Oh.
This is a yew, and I'm actually going to topiary this. Don't tell, because somebody doesn't want me to do it, but I'm going to turn this into a twist. Well, yews are highly, highly prunable. This is standicii, that's the Latin name.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, even if you prune them down to the bare wood, they'll green up again on bare wood. Whereas other evergreens, that's not the case. Yeah. But this is very, very prunable. They use this for topiary all the time. Yeah.
It's almost like you took a can of like yellow spray paint and just, went over it.
Yeah.
It's just like
that's the new growth.
Magnetizing.
Yeah.
And then we have such a sweet little path taking us under this arbor.
Yeah. Well, this is actually just a little kind of like a little patio where we sit. I like to have different seating areas. Because this seating area is very shady in the summer, and it's a nice place because of the Japanese maple.
Yeah.
It's a nice place to come sit and have a glass of wine after work. And in the late winter, early spring, when there's no leaves on this Japanese maple, it's one of the sunniest spots.
Oh, perfect.
So we sit back here in the sun and enjoy the sun on those kind of warm days.
So what is this beautiful thing?
Oh, it's rhododendron edgeworthii.
Oh.
And fragrantissima, so it gets yellow fragrant flowers.
Look at the furry bark too.
I know. This one is really furry, which I cannot remember the name of this one, but I love it. It has indimentum and tomentum. So it has fur on the bottom and the top.
And those are so resistant to lace.
Yes, anything with indimentum is completely resistant to lace.
Wow.
And that is a cool, actually, while I was on vacation, something happened to the top of it. It was much taller. But that's a very cool variegated Japanese red pine called Oculus draconis, which means dragon's eye.
Okay.
Because supposedly when you look at the tips of the branches straight on, they look like dragon's eyes.
Oh, wow.
Of course, I've never seen a dragon's eye, so I have no idea if it's true or not. And this is a magnolia stellata, which is really fun because, of course, it blooms on bare branches, which is always really
lovely.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I prune it so that it's very layered. I take out all the branches that grow vertically, and I just leave the horizontal branches.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And this is my herb garden.
Oh,
all kinds of fun herbs in here. There's so many things that are herbs that people don't consider herbs, but like scented geraniums are herbs, and they're completely edible.
Okay. Interesting texture.
And there's another. Yeah, I would probably eat more of the flowers.
So lemony.
And this is one of my favorite herbs of all time, lemon verbena.
Oh, yeah.
And this is really cool. This is purple shiso, which is in the perilla family, and it's like Japanese basil, basically. And you taste it; it's really nice. And this is green shiso, and you can use it in Asian cooking. It's really good. Yeah. And this is such an ornamental plant. I actually use this as a coleus substitute. There's a couple back there.
As a what?
Coleus.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I can see that.
It's so pretty.
It is gorgeous.
Yeah.
You want to try?
She shoved both of them. Oh, this is the other berry that I was going to show you. This is a porcelain pine. And they start out green, and then they turn purple, and then they turn this really cool blue. Yeah, and at some point, it's like, oh, here we go. We have green, the green berries, they're brand new. Then they go to purple, then they go to blue.
You must spend a lot of time out here.
Yeah,
in the summer.
Yep, we dinner out here and lounge out here from about April to October, depending on the weather, of course.
Yeah.
But this is covered, so no rain gets here.
It's covered?
Yeah,
really?
the pergola is covered. So if you step back, you can see there's a raised roof that has polycarbonate on it.
Uh-huh.
So that the rain can get through, but the light can get through.
Oh, excellent.
And the wisteria is actually under that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have to do a lot of maintenance on this wisteria?
Every wisteria needs a lot of maintenance.
Yeah.
Yeah, they need to be pruned twice a year. They're pruned back to a main frame in February, and then in the summer you prune them to be the size that you want them to be on their structure. So I prune out all the whips in the summer.
Okay.
Yeah. The first flowering happens when there's no leaves, and this is a white, it's sinensis.
Okay.
So it's a Chinese wisteria, so the flowers are not like they're not those long purple ones. They're a little bit shorter, and they're white.
Oh.
And they are fragrant. And then it flowers sort of sporadically throughout the summer, but the main flowering is on bare branches.
Wow.
And they kind of hang down. So there's inward-looking gardens and outward-looking gardens. And this needed to be an inward-looking garden because there's no vistas. It's just houses. And the fountain was really, really important because we're really close to downtown and we're close to the overpass and main roads. You know, just a little water close to where you're sitting distracts your ear. And your ear focuses on the sound that's closest to you. So you can't even hear the road noises.
Yeah. And this is just incredible.
Yeah, this is photofilament here. Starting to go over a little bit, but I love photofilm in pots, kind of like hostas in pots, because they bloom way earlier, they die back way later, and they don't get destroyed by slugs or anything.
It's such a lush, display that you have here in absolute shade.
Yeah, although we do have skylights here, it gets bright indirect light.
Oh,
which is
okay.
what a lot of houseplants like. So I bring all my begonias. Like that begonia is really happy right now.
Yeah.
I bring all my begonias outside from about the end of March to October. But then other things are really hardy. Like this is beesia. That's a totally hardy plant for the garden.
And does that stick around all winter?
Yep.
Wow. Beesia.
And this is a species rhododendron. And this fern is hardy for me in a pot on my patio, believe it or not.
Well, Pam, thank you so much.
Thanks.
This is just such an honor to see your home garden.
Thank you.
It's just incredible.